How would a Muslim combat Salafism?
A Muslim would combat Salafism in 5 ways. Number 1, you have to understand that Salafiyya is based on a type caste faith. Salafiyya is a type caste faith. What that means is, although you are telling them something, they do not hear what you are saying because they have already had the blinders put on them. So when you tell them, here is what it says in the text, and they look at it, they do not accept what you are telling them because they have been taught not to heed or understand what you are telling them. So what you have to do is you have to give them questions against their organization. And do not attack their cult heroes. Don't do that. Question their organization. You should say, are the founders of Salafiyya great men of knowledge? Well, yes. And does Salafiyya accept the authority of the Khalifas and the righteous rulers of the Muslim world? Yes. Then why did the righteous Ottomans kill them? In fact, when the Ottomans killed them, they beheaded them and then buried them without praying on them. Now, when you look in the books of fiqh and judicial rulings, that's only for kuffar. Why did the Ottomans do that? That's the first thing you should question. The second thing, is their belief an Orthodox belief? Well, sure it is, absolutely. Then why did all of the Orthodox authorities oppose them if their faith was Orthodox? Notice how I'm not attacking them specifically as people. I'm questioning the organization. Because when they start to question the organization, then you can start to open them up. The third issue is, well, what does Salafiyya depend on for salvation? He said, well, if you've done your good deeds, if you've been an upright person, then you're going to the Jannah. Well, based on deeds. Yes. Well, there we are. The Orthodox didn't feel that way. In fact, one Sahabi was talking about how great it would be when he died. He said, I can't wait to die. Why can't you wait to die? Because I get to go into the presence of Allah. The Sahaba had 3 lines of poetry that they used to say. They said, we were saved from the fire by grace, made to enter in the Jannah with mercy. They didn't say deeds. With mercy. And we were rewarded with further benefits based on our deeds in the Jannah. That's not the reason why you go into the Jannah. The reason why you go in is the faith based on the mercy of Allah. But Salafiyya has a different principle of that. And to ask them, well, if everyone else is cursed because they don't follow the Salafi way, everyone else is astray, and only you are guided, then you've got a serious problem, because you've got the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, stay with as-sawad al-a'zam. In Arabic, that means the vast majority. The vast majority. Got a serious problem. Because the vast majority is no good, then that means everyone's finished. Finally, another issue is this. If we have to finish off all the madhabs, forget about them. There's no point in following the fiqh of the madhabs. And we can only understand Islam through you. Then subhanallah, we didn't know there were prophets after the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Because if you take away our ability to interpret and understand the text and the revelation, and you say you can't use them, you have to go straight to the book and sunnah. Well, what about when we don't understand that? Ask me. I'll help you. Well, you are a prophet then. Because if we can't understand it through any of the other texts, remember, the Hanafi madhab came through who? It came from Abu Hanifa with the name, but where did it come from? It came through Abdullah bin Mas'ud, who was taught by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, Abdullah bin Mas'ud, Anas ibn Malik, Abdullah bin Omar, and 3,000 other Sahaba. Well, who did they teach? They taught Hamad and others. Who taught who? Who taught Abu Hanifa. And Abu Hanifa had a panel of 40 qadis around him. Over 1 million scholars have passed through the Hanafi madhab. And you're telling me to leave that for some crook's tapes or a few books? Or for 400,000 ulama that have passed through the Hanbali madhab for one guy? When these people used to come together, there'd be 1,000 Hanafi ulama that would draw together on a position, to draw fatwa on one issue. 1,000 ulama. And now we've got them making mistakes about one issue. We've got one Salafi scholar. Bring this to them. Say, Imam Shawkani says that a man can walk around in the street or in the bathhouse with his legs completely naked. From the waist down, it's no big deal. But Siddiq Hassan Khan says, no, cover one of them. And Muhammad Abduh says, cover both. Right? When you come into the bathhouse, one of them says, well, it depends on whether it's women or men. If it's women, go about as you please, naked if you like. But if it's men, cover up. Bring up these glaring things, because Salafiyya to Salafis is supposed to be something that unites Muslims. The reason why Muslims are united is because of these madhabs, and they've divided the deen, and they've destroyed the deen. You say, okay, Salafiyya represents unity, right? Right, it represents unity. What about this issue of the thigh being shown? What about the issue of raising the hands, or what about the issue of fastening the hands after coming up from ruku'? This is a big issue amongst Salafis. Al-Albani was thrown out of Saudi Arabia by Ibn Baz for differing with him. Because Ibn Baz says when you come up, you raise the hands, you leave them at your side. Al-Albani says, no, Ibn Baz says when you lift them, you fasten them on your chest. Al-Albani says, no, it's all right, you can leave them at your side. Ibn Baz says, indeed, you're mistaken, and had him thrown out. Thrown out of the, he was exiled to Jordan and kept on house arrest. So what unity is there in that? Our issue is this. We unify on the broad principles. Need fiqh, need to pray, right. Number 2 principle, the way of prayer. There are 4 major groups of Sahaba, 4 ones, and that's how the madhabs came down to us. Now, however they prayed, we know Rasulullah ﷺ had to have prayed that way. Because the way Abu Hanifa and those prayed, where'd they get it from? Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Anas ibn Malik, Abdullah ibn Umar, 3,000 other Sahaba buried in Kufa. We know he prayed that way. But if we follow you, who's come 1,300 years down in the 21st century Jahiliyyah, and you tell us, Akhi, you're praying wrong, how do we know the way you're praying is valid? How do we know? In fact, how do we know of the validity of your salah when you've stepped outside of the boundaries that have been built? So I would say to bring these major points, and after bringing them to them, if they still have something to say, continue on dialoguing with them. Invite them out to dinner. And say, brother, I noticed that the situation, you're becoming heated. And when they become heated, don't get too angry with them. Because I've been dialoguing with them for years. When you first dialogue with them, they'll get angry. You don't get salam. But come to them. Say, I've come to your house to visit you. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum. This is what they are taught. Because when you oppose them, you are opposing Allah's deen and His sunnah. You have to understand that's what they're being taught. So when they personally attack you, you cannot get angry. Because they are not under the influence of normal situation. They are under the influence of their organization. If you want to understand Salafiyya really well, study Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm not joking. If you study them, you will understand Salafiyya really well. But Jehovah's Witnesses, you must do at least 4 hours of community service work in your local Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall. Salafiyya, you should study at least 12 hours a day. 4 of those and a halaqah. Jehovah's Witnesses. There's only a small group of people going to the paradise. Salafis. There's only a small group of people going to paradise. Jehovah's Witnesses. This is the infallible word of God. Men interpret it at will. We don't need any other help. Salafis. Men interpret it at will. We don't need any other help. Jehovah's Witnesses. All of Christendom is an abomination to God. Salafis. All of Islam is an abomination to God. Right? Jehovah's Witnesses. Only our faithful scholars are the promising lambs of God who've delivered the message unbroken to the faithful servants. Salafiyya. We're the only ones following the Salaf as-Salih, passed down unbroken, the pristine, pure Islam. You have to avoid deviation. Holding on to the Sunnah stubbornly with your teeth. Right? Now, I've already given you 5 examples. You can find others. You can find others. So, once you study that, to compare them, realize that. And don't get angry if it's actually personal. It's nothing personal. It's coming from inside of them because that's the only way they've been taught. That's the only way they've been taught. So you've got to kill them with kindness. Say, no, alhamdulillah. Kill them with kindness. That's what you have to do, inshallah.